Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Undeniably, still feeling unwell, but that's okay. Moving forward, so as I'm doing my Quran breakdown project, obviously I'm also going back and forth between chapters, but I was going over Surah Al-Baqarah today because there's a lot to learn in Surah Al-Baqarah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hold on a second. And I think it was because I was gonna come over these verses only because it was an answer for someone else. Apparently, someone a couple years ago used to discuss Deen with me, and I used to discuss Deen with everyone that used to come across me, almost everyone that used to come across me, and apparently they had remembered me from that time, and unfortunate am I to not have remembered whom they were. But they reminded me today that that they remembered me, and they were like, oh, we only used to speak regarding the Deen, and you had helped me with some Islah. Of course, I'm not the one who can help. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can help and guide. But in the sense that these were of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words that I was able to give back to that individual. So that individual reminded me that I, had given them some Islah regarding whatever situation that was. And they went off to get married, and they went off to even have a child. But even after that they still had remembered me. And they remembered me to that point, and they told me that, I obviously I'm not telling you no names and everything like that. I'm just telling you the situation whatsoever. And somebody in their family had passed away. So interestingly enough, they were telling me as to what was happening in terms of within their family, and how certain individual was feeling, how their life, just to summarize, it was almost feeling as if their life is over, and so on and so forth. So they themselves are also in that detrimental state to feel like after that individual had passed away, that they themselves don't, like, they're not in that place to feel worthy of this life anymore. And as I came across these verses, subhanallah, it just reminds me that this is the verse. These are the verses that I gave back to that individual. But then this is also something I wanted to discuss. So in Surah Baqarah, okay, let's see what ayat this is. I don't even know what ayat this is, but it says in the English portion, then Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, then he will cause you to die, then he will give you life, then to him you will be returned. But previous to this, subhanallah, so this was chapter 2, Surah Al-Baqarah, and it's verse number 28, and it starts off in this verse as, how can you disbelieve in Allah while you were dead? Then he gave you life. Can you ponder on this a little bit and reflect and think that we didn't even exist? So technically, that term, amwatan, okay, we were dead, or whatever words, this in Arabic, can be replaced with synonymously, or in a better manner to describe this word. But we weren't even alive, and he gave us life when we didn't even exist. So he created us, and then he gave us the life, right? So he created Adam al-Islam, but we were reproduced, right? But we didn't even exist But he gave us the life, okay? Then he gave you life, wait. فَأَيَّكُمْ, right? And then the next one says, then he will cause you to die. So every single one of us will face death, right? Then he will cause you to die. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, then he will give you life. Again, right? So he will, technically the term would be, he will resurrect us, right? Synonymously, the term would be, he will resurrect us. He will give us that life again. Then to him, you will be returned. So, every single one of you out there that you really break down, and when someone perishes, especially if it's a loved one, if someone who's dear and near to you. Hold on a second. Bismillah. You break down, and some of you think it's the end of the world, and it's the end of their life, but it's not technically the end of their life, because life technically hasn't even begun yet, right? It's just, this life is just when they say it's a test, or I'd like to give it as a sampler, it's just a sampler, It's just a sampler. Just give me one second.